Hi, and welcome to Mark chapter 8, verses 27 to 38. This is a pivotal passage, a real turning point in the understanding of the disciples with regard to who Jesus really is. And it all turns on a question that Jesus asked them. You know, have you ever had that experience where you've had something nagging at you? You want to understand it, but you're not sure where to go and why you don't understand it? But then you have a conversation with somebody and they ask you a particular question in a particular way, maybe even at a particular time, and the lights go on. You get it. You see the problem and you understand. You know, that's not completely unlike the way God trains or teaches us. In fact, you may remember from Genesis chapter 3 and verse 9 that the Lord asked Adam a question. Adam had sinned. He had been separated from God, and God was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and he called out to Adam and he says, "Adam, where are you?" It's not that God did not know where Adam was, but the real question is, does Adam know where he is? And Jesus also used these kinds of questions to help people understand. You'll recall from the stilling of the storm in Mark chapter 4 that after Jesus had spoken a word and the storm had died down, he turns to his very fearful disciples and he says to them, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" He didn't say that to them to condemn them, but to help them grapple with the issue of why they don't trust in him, why they still lack faith. Help them understand, just like Adam, where they're really at. And this is exactly what's going on in Mark chapter 8, 27 to 38. You see, the disciples at this point have watched 8 chapters, if you will, of miracles. They've seen Jesus heal the paralytic. They've watched him pronounce the forgiveness of sins. Again, they've seen him still a storm. And they've even seen him drive out a legion of demons. And so the question surfaces, what do they really think? Who is Jesus? And as they're on their way to Jerusalem, some 20 to 25 miles north of the Sea of Galilee, approaching villages near Caesarea Philippi, Jesus turns and says to them, "Hey guys, I have a question. I want to take an opinion poll, if you will. What is the word on the street? Who do people think I am?" And the disciples are only too quick to answer, "Well, some say you're John the Baptist. Others say, well, no, you're more like Elijah or just one of the prophets." But notice Jesus, because without skipping a beat, he turns to them and he asks them, "But who do you say that I am?" This is the pivotal question of the good news. And welcoming Jesus into our lives, we have to ask the question, who do we really think that he is? We've seen him in these 8 chapters perform these miracles that show tremendous compassion for people. And just like the disciples, we need to ask the question, who do we really think that he is? But notice Peter in verse 31, he's only too quick to provide an answer. "You are the Christ," he says. And Jesus warns him not to talk about him. Why? Because the word Christ, Messiah, has associations with it of regal authority and military power. And Jesus doesn't want that kind of message getting out. So he turns to Peter and he says, "Hey," and he turns to us and he says, "I need you to listen. It is true, I am the Messiah. I am the promised king, but this isn't exactly the way you've configured it. Let me explain something to you. We're on the way to Jerusalem, I've told you that. But in Jerusalem," in verse 31, "I will suffer many things. I will be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and I will be killed, but I'll be raised in 3 days." Well, that message right there about his death and his suffering stripped Peter's gears. In fact, it train wrecked the disciples' understanding. They did not know what to do. So Peter, in his infinite wisdom, takes Jesus aside. Of course, you wouldn't want to do it publicly. So he takes Jesus aside and begins to rebuke him. "You don't understand, Lord. This is never going to happen." I can actually just imagine the conversation. And Jesus knows that it's not just Peter's problem. It's our problem. It's the entire disciples' problem. So he turns to the disciples. And looking at Peter, he rebukes Peter in front of them all. And he says, "Hey, you don't have in mind the things of God, but the things of men. You don't understand." Maybe you're at that place too. Maybe you're at a place where you're like, "I don't quite grasp this. I don't quite understand this. Why he has to suffer and die." but it is necessary, according to Jesus, that this happen. But not only that, notice that Jesus says it's not just that you don't understand my suffering. You obviously don't understand the pattern of life I'm calling you to. Because in the final verses 34 to 38, Jesus clearly lays out that his cross, his suffering, is not only that by which we're forgiven, it's also the pattern of the forgiven life. It's not only that which draws us to Jesus, it's that which shows us how to live for him. So the real question is, I guess kind of given to us in verse 34, and that is this: if we want to follow him, what would our life look like? Well, Jesus said, if anyone wants to follow me, let him take up his cross. Daily, it says in Luke. Let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Where are you at with regard to that question? The question of who Jesus is and the life he's calling you to.